Good evening, welcome to the show. This evening my guest will be Mr. James Prosser. He's the Division Director of the Veterans Service, Community Support Services in Charlotte, North Carolina, Mecklenburg County. How are you doing there, Mr. Prosser?
Great, Paul. Thank you very much for having me here. I appreciate it.
Oh, no, sir. Thank you for coming on the show. Okay, you're the Division Director. How long have you been the Director?
About 2 months now, so it's fairly new.
Oh.
But I've been in the office almost 3 years total. Had a little break when we had our budget cuts last year, and unfortunately I was one of the ones that got shifted, but I was able to come back this year as the director and really enjoying that and looking at what we can do to help our veterans.
What's the biggest thing you see as far as needs within your program for the veterans?
You know, the biggest thing is just awareness of their benefits. Most veterans don't really know what all is available out there for them.
Correct.
And our biggest job is to educate them that, first of all, that we do have a veterans office here in the county that provides those services free of charge to them, and that explains to them what their actual benefits are. Because every veteran's benefits is a little bit different. It depends on when you served, where you served, how you served, and that type of thing. So we really have to look at their discharge to see what their benefits are and kind of tailor a package just for them.
Okay, in Mecklenburg County, how many veterans would you say there are?
There's almost 54,000 veterans here in Mecklenburg County alone. And that's just Mecklenburg. That doesn't count the counties surrounding us that we also interact with because we do have the Air National Guard out at the airport. A lot of those folks live in Gastonia, so they technically live in Gaston County, but several of them come to us because they work here in town, work in Mecklenburg County, so we're able to offer them services as well. So I would say probably about 60,000 plus, and that's just the veteran, not counting their spouses and children and dependents.
Okay, we got the World War II veterans. They're dealing with the issues of possibly asbestos that they used back in those days. The Vietnam veterans, they had a lot of issues with the protests that was coming on with them when they were coming back, post-traumatic stress. Then you have the Gulf War veterans. They're coming back and they're dealing with the Gulf War syndrome. Afghanistan and Iraq, they're dealing with being disabled and stuff. How are we dealing with these veterans coming back to society in that type of situation?
Well, like you said, it's different for each of those
Correct.
categories. Each of those generations of veterans is handled a little bit different. The VA does a really good job of trying to develop programs that fit those specific needs and those specific categories. Our job in the county, we are not part of the VA. We work for the county, and our motto is that we work for the veteran, not the VA.
Correct.
And our job is to help the veteran understand what their benefits are, and then help them apply for those benefits and get those benefits and utilize those benefits. So, like you said, the World War II guys, you know, they face a lot of health care issues. You know, they're at that age now where, unfortunately, there are thousands of them dying daily across this country, and it's, you know, it's sad that we're losing that greatest generation. But in addition to those health issues, all these veterans that have served honorably may have a disability or something from the war or from their military service. When they pass, their spouse also becomes eligible for VA benefits.
Oh, okay.
And it's important that they understand that. A lot of our older veterans, they don't want to come in or they don't want to apply for benefits because they're feeling that, well, we need to take care of these young kids coming back. And, you know, I really don't need it. I've really done all these things over the last 40 years or 50 years, 60 years, and I done it on my own, and I don't really need help now. But what they don't consider sometimes is when they're gone, that help could really be something life-changing for their spouse.
Correct.
You know, the spouse could be getting money that otherwise she might not have. And it's important that they understand that those benefits aren't just their benefits, they're their family's benefits. And we try to help them understand not only, you know, the good things that we like to talk about with the health care and those type of programs, but we also have to look at end of life. You know, we're all going to be there someday. And there are burial benefits, there are death benefits, And we don't like to talk about those. Those are the type of things we don't want to just sit down and talk over a cup of coffee. But they're things that you have to think about. And as a veteran can make things easier for their family, then they should do that.
And it sounds a lot like going to the doctor. There's so much information you can get from going to the doctor, but we refuse to go. And then once it's like go as much as you can and learn as much benefits that's available for you.
Right. It's funny you mentioned that about going to the doctor, because we see the same thing in our disability claims and stuff. I love that commercial on TV where they follow that woman around and she's asking all these questions all day long.
Correct.
And she gets into the doctor's office and the doctor says, "Any questions?" She goes, "No." And that's what happens when we go to a lot of the disability things. The clients, they have all these medical problems, but when they get in front of that doctor, they say, "No." They say, "Doctors, how you doing today?" "Oh, I'm fine." We don't want to talk about those things, but those are the things that we have to talk about sometimes.
Homelessness, that seems to be not only a big thing for the veterans, but the whole community. How are we dealing with that issue of homelessness?
Well, you're right. Homelessness is growing because of the economy and a bunch of different factors. But again, the VA is really taking strides to, they have the plan about ending homelessness.
Correct.
And they're, putting their time, effort, and money behind that program. And we partner with the VA on those. We even have a homeless support person in our office occasionally from the VA. We also have within our community support services, our department, we have a homeless support services and division, and headed up by Mr. Peter Safer, who's been involved in the homeless issue here in Charlotte for a number of years and really understands what is going on with that, and is working with, we work with the Men's Shelter of Charlotte, the Urban Ministries, Salvation Army, for the women veterans and the women homeless population. So we do partner with those agencies to try to help with the homeless. We also have a program set up through DSS with Mecklenburg Transportation for our veterans that need to get to medical appointments and that type of thing with the VA. We can offer them transportation to the clinic. We also offer them 2 round-trip bus tickets a year to like Salisbury or Durham or someplace where they have to go for further care, specialty care or that type of thing. So we try to look at all those different things to help with the homeless. The Homeless Resource Center is a new program done by HSS, and they're right across the street from us in the old Hal Marshall Annex. And what that does is, over the years, civic organizations and churches and groups like that have come out to feed the homeless at what they call the Wall. There along between College and Pfeiffer Street. And now they're able to do it inside in our building, in the county's building there, where it's, they have bathrooms available and that type of thing. And we've got school cafeteria type tables in there.
Correct.
And able to, that helps support the veterans as well. So it's not just, not the homeless personnel. It's not just veterans, but all homeless. And so we partner with them to help with the veteran population.
As far as another issue is, I hear a lot about post-traumatic stress disorder.
Right.
Tell the audience a little bit, some information. What is post-traumatic stress disorder, and how much of an impact does it have on veterans?
Well, post-traumatic stress disorder is basically where you're put in a position where you're afraid for your life. And that not necessarily could be, it doesn't necessarily have to be a combat situation. It could be, natural disaster. It can be a horrific accident or something like that. Basically, it's something that's very traumatic to you. So, and it's how our body deals with that. And, there's lots of different theories about how certain things imprint in our brain during that, because of all the adrenaline rush and all these different chemicals interacting, if they say certain things get imprinted in your brain. And that's what causes the flashbacks or, the repeated, nightmares and that type of thing. I'm not a mental health expert,
Correct.
so I can't give you the medical definitions
Yes.
for it. But basically, what it is just that type of traumatic event that you just keep reliving it. You keep having nightmares. You keep having flashbacks, and other different medical type conditions such as depression, anxiety, panic attacks, and those type of things. So we do see that a lot in veterans, and with the old standard with the VA was to prove post-traumatic stress disorder. You had to have what they call a stressor medal, like a Purple Heart that shows you were wounded, or a Bronze Star with Valor, Silver Star, something like Combat Infantry Badge.
Correct.
You had to prove that you were a combat veteran. And now the VA has relaxed that somewhat, and the big issue is having a diagnosis from a psychiatrist or psychologist that says you have post-traumatic stress disorder. And that's what you have to have for VA compensation. And with the VA, what they look at as far as compensation for any type of illness, injury, or whatever, it's a three-part process. First, you have to have a diagnosed medical problem right now.
Okay.
You have to have a problem. Number two, it had to either occurred in service or was aggravated by your service. And number three, the VA calls it the nexus, and what it really is the link between those two factors. And 9 times out of 10, the link is a medical professional's opinion that says, because this happened, this is now the case, and this is what correlates it. So that's what they have to have. And with post-traumatic stress disorder, that wasn't always easy to prove. And now they're making that easier, and people are being able to get treatment for that. One of our other partners we work with a lot is the Charlotte Vet Center.
Okay.
They're not really part of the Salisbury VA Hospital. It's a separate group. And what they do is they deal with combat veterans. And so they deal with the combat stress, and they have groups, they have classes, and we work closely with them, refer a lot of folks to them. And so that's how we help with the post-traumatic stress folks. It's one of those things where it impacts every facet of your life.
Correct.
If you have PTSD, there are going to be problems in your life, whether it's social problems, dealing with family members, things like that, concentration. You could, lose your temper on the job because you're easily agitated. The thing about PTSD is it really touches every facet of your life. And so, we encourage folks to get seen for that and get treated for that. A lot of our, especially Vietnam era veterans,
Correct.
they don't want to participate in that kind of treatment. A lot of times what I hear is, well, I don't want to drag that back up. I buried that, and yeah, they buried it, but they usually buried it under 40 years of substance abuse or 40 years of something.
Correct.
They're self-medicating in some way. They're not dealing with the issues. And I think that getting them into treatment is, the first step. I mean, it really, because it makes such an impact on their life. And then the VA claims and all that stuff that goes with it, then we're happy to help them with that as well.
How important is it for family members who's having to deal with that individual who's going through that post-traumatic stress, for them to probably seek some type of treatment for that issue?
Right, absolutely. It's very important because they're dealing with that veteran every day. They're seeing how that affects them, and they're feeling the impact of that. They're the ones that get snapped at when the tempers get short. They're the ones that may be sleeping next to the veteran when they're having these nightmares and wake up in the middle of the night. So it disrupts their sleep pattern as well, and in addition to making them feel bad because they feel bad for their mate. They want to they want to see them in a better place, and so it is important that the family be involved, and that's one of the things that the Vet Center does as well. They also incorporate some of the family things, and I think the ones coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan, especially our Guard and Reserve folks that are coming back now, the military has put a very strong emphasis on families. They have this program called the Yellow Ribbon Program, and basically what that program is when they come back from the deployment like that, They have a weekend retreat type thing that they set up at, one time it was up at the Great Wolf Lodge and different, nice hotels in South Carolina and things, where they set up the weekend, and the spouse comes in and maybe bring one or two kids, but always they try to get the spouse there, and they give them education and stuff about, how their spouse may be different when they get back into the home and everything. And they do that at like 90-day intervals.
Correct.
A couple times a year. So they look at the family as well. And it's very important that the family be part of that treatment program.
Okay, I know another big issue that we have going on out in our community is unemployment. For those veterans that's coming out, having the government, taking care of them and all that, and now coming back into society seeking some type of employment, but how hard is it for them to really deal with that issue of looking for a job and not able to get one at this present time?
Yeah, it's very difficult, and it's hard for anybody to get a
Correct.
job right now. With all the layoffs and downsizing and outsourcing and all those different things, the strength of the economy, it's hard for anybody that loses their job. One of the things that was pointed out to me recently about homelessness is that it takes a few years for somebody to become homeless. First, they usually lose their job, and then they're on unemployment, or they're looking for unemployment, and they're living off of savings, and then they get to the point where they lose their house. That's not something that happens fairly rapidly. Okay. But with your military person that comes back, a lot of them, they didn't own a house when they went in the military. Correct. So they don't have a house, they don't have a whole lot of savings to go through. Because you're not going to get rich in the military, we know that, but it's quicker for them to be homeless and to be in a very hardship situation. So we partner again with Employment Security Agency.
Correct.
We have another great program is Operation Independence that is on a partnership between us and it's Goodwill Piedmont, and the CPCC also is involved in that. And that program over there, it's for veterans and their spouses and their dependents. So it's not just for the veterans, but they partnered with Microsoft, and they have a great computer lab over there, and they help the veterans and their families write resumes. Okay. They teach them about interview skills, and they help them look for jobs and how to post their resume on job boards and things like that.
Correct.
So, again, that's an example of a great program that, we're aware of and that we try to send folks to. Military Job Fair, we partner with them through American Legion. Okay. And they come out to Charlotte about twice a year up at the Speedway and have a job fair up there, and have different agencies come in and try to get veterans jobs. So that's another issue. We're a county office, but we have our hands out quite a ways with all these partnerships. I mean, it really makes good sense to us, because we're able to help the veteran much more than if they just came in and we just did the claim and they went home. So we try to develop these partnerships, and we're still working on some. One of the issues is the folks coming back, a lot of them may not be able to get a job, but they've got the GI Bill. And so they're going to go to school and get a degree or something so they can get a job. And UNCC and CPCC, both in the last year, have hired full-time veterans coordinators that have really made a big difference to those veterans on those campuses, because it helps them connect with other veterans. It also helps them get integrated into the university faster, helps them when they have problems. And so we want to partner with them, and that's one of the things I've just started recently with them is, they have our brochures in their office, and they refer folks to us, and when we get questions about from veterans from their schools, we know who to send them to. Right. So it just, being out there and networking and making these partnerships just makes good sense, because it helps the veterans, and that's the bottom line. That's what we're there for, is to serve them.
And I know we were talking earlier before the show about not just employment, but the veterans, they also assist you in starting your own business up. there's a lot of programs to help them out with that. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, the VA is good at partnerships too. They
Correct.
partner with the Small Business Administration, SBA, and they have a program called Patriot Express. And what that program does is it helps veterans, first of all, understand what it takes to start a business. They give them information on business plans and things like that. It also gives them information on funding for franchises, and partners up with other agencies that help them understand the franchise costs and how a franchise works if they want to do that type of business. But also if they just want to start their own small business, it
Correct.
helps them learn how to write a business plan that they can take to a bank and say, this is what my business plan is. And so that's a big help. I've had sent several people there. We have a rep here in Charlotte from that program, and we send folks over to them, and they've been real successful with starting businesses by using that program.
As far as yourself, being a veteran, myself a veteran, what inspires you to want to help other veterans?
Well, I've spent 27 years in the Air Force. I went in when I was 17, and it's funny because basically I got kicked out of high school during my senior year. And I grew up in a little farm town in Illinois, and there wasn't a whole lot of opportunity there. And so I ended up joining the Air Force. And back then, the Air Force would take you without a high school diploma. But part of my contract was I had to get my GED within 1 year.
Okay.
And I'm so glad the Air Force made me do that, because by doing that, then through the community college of the Air Force, I was able to start taking classes, and then use my GI Bill and get my bachelor's degree. And I've been working on my master's degree. And when I went home for one of my high school reunions, the funniest part was they asked me what I was doing, and at that time I had just graduated from college and was starting to work on my master's, and they started laughing and says, yeah, right, we know how you were in school. They didn't believe me. And so the Air Force changed my life dramatically, and I paid them back by serving 27 years total between my active duty time and reserve time. I've spent 2 terms on active duty, got out, went into the reserves, was in the reserves for 8 years, and then went back on active duty. So my last 7 years I spent as a first sergeant. And as a first sergeant, we're responsible for the health, morale, and welfare of the troops.
Correct.
And basically what I tell folks is I'm still a first sergeant. I'm still taking care of the troops. It's just neither one of us are wearing uniforms today. But that's my philosophy. I'm still taking care of my troops. And that's the way I look at it. And, we have a great staff there. We've got myself, we've got a supervisor, we've got 6 service officers, and we're all dedicated and committed to taking care of the veteran. I mean, that's what our passion is. It's not just a job for us.
Correct.
It's something that means a lot to us. All of us except one are either veterans or related to a veteran, and actually the one that's not is related to a veteran. But so we understand what veterans are all about. I'm a Gulf War veteran, and we've got some folks that have been Iraq and Afghanistan, and we just want to take care of our veterans and do the best we can for them. So our philosophy is to take care of them and to help them. And at the end of the day, when you go home and you see where you've really made an impact on somebody's life, my favorite story is I had a widow come see me. Her husband had just died, and she was interested in getting the burial flag for her husband.
Correct.
And see about the government headstone and that type of thing. And he had literally just died the day before, and she really hadn't sat down with the funeral home much. And so I told her, I said, well, I asked her, who they were using for the services, and I said, well, they do a really good job. They'll take care of most of this stuff for you, when you get to the funeral home. I said, but I said, if you don't mind me asking, I said, what did he die of? And she told me what he had died of, and she had his DD-214, his
Correct.
separation document, when she came in, because she knew she was going to need that to get any services. And I saw that he'd been in Vietnam on that DD-214. So I told her, I said, well, we'll take care of the stuff for the flag right now. And so we did that. And I said, but promise me that you'll come back and see me when you get when things settle down for you, a couple weeks or so, come back and see me. And once you get the formal death certificate,
Correct.
make a long story short, that woman ended up getting what's called death indemnity compensation.
Oh, okay.
She'll get that for the rest of her life because she's over 57. She'll get that for the rest of her life, whether she remarries or not. And it's like $1,165. She gets a 4-year scholarship. If she wants to go to school, she can go to school. She has a daughter that's had just graduated from high school. She gets a 4-year scholarship paid for by the VA. They both get health care. The daughter gets it as long as she's in college. She gets it up to 23.
Correct.
But the wife gets health care the rest of her life as well. All those things because of the fact that he had been exposed to Agent Orange in Vietnam and had died of a disease that was complicated by that. And unfortunately, if she probably went to the VA and asked them for a burial flag, they would have given her a burial flag and said, thank you very much. They wouldn't have dug in to see what else she gets.
Correct.
And, when someone gets that letter that says, this is how much you're going to get, this is your insurance, this, that, and they're in your office crying, you know that you did a good job that
Correct.
day. You did something that impacted their life. And that's what we like to do.
Prosser, we're running close on time. I know you have an event coming up in October.
Right. I do have a few events. Actually,
Okay, go
we
ahead.
do several different things throughout the year. You're right. The next thing coming up is our stand down.
Correct.
That will be at the Grady Cole Center on Tuesday, October 11th. And we bring in all the homeless veterans that we can round up. We send vans out to urban ministries, the men's shelter, the women's shelter. We actually go as far out as Gastonia. We have a van that comes up from Union County, brings them in with one of the Union County service officers, and he's there as well. And we partner with different county officers. They'll be there as well. The VA is there. There's legal representation there. They give them. We have haircuts. We'll have a beauty shop set up. We'll feed them, give them clothing. There's just all kinds of things going on that day, and that is one of our big things throughout the year. So we encourage folks, if they want to support that, they can contact Mr. Joe Rapley, and we can give you his contact information.
Correct.
But he's heading that up this year. We've also got the Salute to Veterans Parade coming up on November 11th. November 11th is Veterans Day, but the actual parade is going to be the Saturday before on November 5th.
Okay.
And we want folks to come out and watch the parade and support our veterans and our active duty folks that are going to be involved in that parade. We have the Freedom Breakfast on November 11th, and we do different things throughout the community.
Thank you, Mr. Prosser, for coming on the show, and really appreciate all that you do for the veterans. And anytime you want to come back with more information, just let me know.
All right, we'll do.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
You bet.
Audience, thank you for watching the show, and you continue to be encouraged. Thank you.
All clear.
Thank you, sir.
Quick half hour, wasn't it?
It goes by fast. Oh, God.
I kept thinking I'll never be able to talk for a half hour.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome you to the show.